Don Darrell Loop, and I'll be chairing the meeting. And will the secretary please call the roll?
Assemblymember Anderson.
Present.
Assemblymember Backus.
Present.
Assemblymember Brown May.
Here.
Assemblymember Dickman.
Here.
Assemblymember Gurr for Assemblymember Koenig.
Here.
Assemblymember Hafen.
Here.
Assemblymember Hibbets.
Here.
Assemblymember Howdigi.
Here.
Assemblymember Mosca.
Here.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Here.
Assemblymember Roth for Assemblymember Watts.
Here.
Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Here.
Assemblymember Yeager.
Here.
Vice Chair Monroe Moreno.
I am here.
Senator Buck.
Here.
Senator Cannizzaro. Senator Neal.
Here.
Senator Wynn. Senator Stone.
Here.
Senator Taylor. Senator Titus.
Here.
And Chair Don Darrell Loop.
And I am here. I believe we have everyone, but if not, please mark any members who are not currently here present. And Senator Taylor, I think you might be on mute, although now I don't see her. So there she is.
You're right. I was on mute.
Okay,
Thank you. I got it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mhm.
All right. Before we move on to today's agenda, I'd like to do the housekeeping standard. Please turn off your phones or devices. And if you are going to speak today, please remember to state and spell your name for the record and hand the secretary a card if you have one. And given the short time for staff to prepare for this meeting, it was not feasible to provide a printed meeting packet for everyone. So we will start with public comment. And this is the first period of public comment. So we will start here in Las Vegas. For those of you that are listening online, please dial 888-475-4499. And when asked for the meeting ID, please enter 860-7712-4008 and then press pound. When prompted for your participant ID, just press pound. So we'll start here in Las Vegas. Is there anyone wishing to give public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to Carson City. And I see somebody at the desk. Please go ahead when you're ready. So sorry, Carson City, if you can hang just for a minute. We do have someone here in Las Vegas. And please just press your microphone when you are ready. I apologize.
Good afternoon, Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Denise Charles, DENISE-CHARLES, and I serve as the Chief Program Officer at St. Jude's Ranch for Children. Since 1966, St. Jude's Ranch for Children has been dedicated to healing and empowering Nevada's most vulnerable children and young people, those in foster care due to abuse, neglect, sexual exploitation, and those experiencing homelessness. Today, I want to speak to the urgent matter of the federal government shutdown on the young people we serve. For the 354 children and young people we are serving today in our foster care and homeless programs who rely on the critical safety net services like SNAP, WIC, and Medicaid, not just for survival, but for stability and dignity and hope. When these programs are disrupted, it's not just a policy issue, it's a crisis for the child who may go to bed hungry, miss a medical appointment, or lose access to vital mental health care. We are deeply grateful to partners like Three Square and other community agencies who have stepped up to help us bridge the critical gaps. With their support, we can ensure that no child goes to bed hungry. but stopgap measures are not sustainable. Nevada's children deserve consistent, reliable access to food, health care, and support services, regardless of federal gridlock. We urge this committee to continue advocating for emergency resources and contingency planning to protect our most vulnerable residents. The children and youth of Nevada are counting on us. Thank you for your time and commitment to their well-being.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here in Las Vegas? All right, we will now go up to Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Nalani Page, Nalani Page, Page. I am a member of AFSCME Local 4041. As an AFSCME member, I'm here today to advocate for our community. The cost of everything keeps going up, and it's already harder for many in our communities to get by. SNAP is an important resource that makes a huge impact on both those in need and on our economy as a whole. As a family support specialist for the state, we are on the front lines of the SNAP crisis. For the last week, we have been informing Nevadans that we are processing as normal, but benefits for November have not been funded. As a family service specialist, we are doing everything we can so that when the SNAP benefits do get federally funded, Nevadans will have nearly immediate access to their benefits for those who have been approved. This work has always been emotionally draining, but this week it's been heartbreaking. We provide much more than resources. Many of us workers are committed to social services because these services, like SNAP, got us through, pulled us through, and we are able to support others today. My coworkers and I keep showing up to do this work because it's important. We care about our communities and we want to help. Nevadans from all walks of life receive SNAP assistance. Working parents, unhoused people, seniors, students working on their college degrees, veterans adjusting to civilian life, military families, disabled people unable to work, and more. Regardless of their circumstances, these are our neighbors, our friends, and our families. These are our fellow Nevadans. I'm glad to see that the state is stepping in and helping where it can. I want to thank the members of this community for working to find solutions to the situation you did not create. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments in Carson City? Seeing none, we'll go to the phone lines. AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Dondero Loop. To provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Marie Baxter, MarieBaxter, and I'm the CEO of Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada. On behalf of Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada, I express a strong appreciation and support for the proposed $30 million in emergency allocation to sustain and expand food access during the federal government shutdown and SNAP interruption. During times of crisis, public meal programs that provide hot prepared meals, like the St. Vincent's Dining Room in Reno, provide an important complement to expanding food pantry distributions. The St. Vincent's Dining Room has been in continuous operation for over 60 years and remains the only permanent facility of its kind serving hot meals 365 days a year. To help families during the shutdown, Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada is expanding its dining room hours to include weekend dinners so that parents and children can count on nutritious food and reliable support when household budgets fall short and they have emptied their food pantry box. As part of your consideration of the allocation of emergency funds to food banks, we respectfully ask the committee to consider establishing an obligation for the respective food banks to pass through up to $1 million to the public meal providers in Northern Nevada and Southern Nevada to support and expand existing prepared meal programs. This obligation will allow public meal providers entities to purchase additional restaurant volume food for preparation in their commercial kitchens. A targeted pass-through of $1 million for our own St. Vincent's dining room would be exclusively for purchasing food, allowing us to provide an estimated 400,000 additional hot meals for families during this shutdown period alone. I greatly appreciate your consideration and are so incredibly pleased that you are helping to fill the gap during this difficult time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Eve Erickson. That's EVEERIKSSON. I'm a resident of Henderson, Nevada. My husband is a veteran with a disability connected to his service in Iraq, who is only able to work a part-time light-duty job. My 7-year-old daughter has a developmental disability, and although I'm college educated and have a long work history, I'm not able to be employed because I need to supervise her 30-plus hours per week of medically necessary treatments. I met my husband 6 years ago at an affiliate of 3 Square Food Bank where we both volunteered 16 hours a week. At that time, we had the means to help others. Now we are on the receiving end. 3 Square, TPAP Distributions, and SNAP feed the most helpless amongst us. We don't often consider when disability is going to wipe out our ability to earn and how important these basic humanitarian services are to our community and to families like mine. I urge you to do whatever you can to support and supplement these programs. Thank you.
Chair, we have no additional callers at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, we will close public comment and we will go to item C on the agenda, the ARPA reports. This is informational only, so we will start with Ms. Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Sarah Kaufman, Legislative Council Bureau Fiscal Analysis Division. I will walk through agenda item C1, which is the Statement of the American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Fiscal Recovery Fund Obligations and Remaining Unobligated Balance, and summarize the approved work programs that were included as informational items on today's agenda. The table has been provided as a separate handout that is outside of the meeting packet, so members should have a copy on the dais. It is also available on the committee's meeting webpage listed under meeting materials, agenda item C1. At the top of page 1 is a high-level summary displaying the actual expenditures for fiscal years 2022 through 2025. And as a reminder, the state did obligate 100% of the coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds by the December 31st, 2024 deadline to do so. And any remaining funding which has yet to be spent must be expended by December 31st, 2026. This table generally lists program descriptions and amounts in chronological order based on budgetary approval dates. Revisions or updates to existing rows following the first October IFC meeting are identified in red text and mostly reflect savings identified by the Governor's Finance Office to support an additional allocation of funding to support of an anticipated increase in utilization for the food bank services throughout the state. The committee will hear more about the savings and the reallocation when agenda items D and F are discussed today. During the October 16th meeting, the Governor's Finance Office testified that they were working with the Governor to identify potential savings from previously approved projects that could be reallocated prior to the expenditure deadline of the funds. And in general, the ARPA funding can be reobligated after the December 31st, 2024 obligation deadline, so long as the project that will receive the reobligated funding is an eligible project under the ARPA program rules, and the project incurred an obligation by the December 31st, 2024 deadline. The Governor's Finance Office has identified 36 projects with savings totaling $7.8 million that have been reallocated to the State Department of Agriculture to provide additional funding to the existing food insecurity program. I would note of those 36 projects, 11 of those had savings of less than $100. the work programs approved by the governor under the emergency provisions of NRS 353 to reflect the reallocations are submitted as an informational item under agenda item D and are listed on page 24 of our table, rows 292 through 298. In addition, there are numerous rows on the table which have savings amounts updated in red text, which are contributing to the reallocations. Overall, 100% of the savings identified at this time has been reallocated to address food insecurity. As the governor's finance office continues to work with award recipients, we could see additional requests or approvals to reallocate the ARPA savings as we approach the December 2026 deadline to expend funds. Madam Chair, that concludes my comments, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee?
Madam Chair?
All right. Yes, Senator Titus.
Thank you. I was going to click my hand raised in the Zoom, but I wasn't sure that it was going to go through or not. So thank you for recognizing me. I appreciate it. So Ms. Kaufman, thank you for the update. And I was looking through that chart, and in the red, in your initial statement, you said they can be transferred if they're in the same category. We've clarified that, but some of them were like from Dieter and other things. Are they all clearly able to be transferred to what we're using them for?
Madam Chair, through you to Senator Titus. Yes, it is our understanding that if there was a project that was previously allocated that received savings, that the funding could then go to an existing program that was already allocated funding prior to the December 31st, 2024 deadline. So essentially the projects that are identified that are still ongoing within the table that is provided under C1 are eligible projects.
Right. So they don't have to be the same category, but they've been designated so we can move one from the other category. That's what I'm understanding?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And I believe that Assemblymember Brown-May has a question.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And maybe I'm skipping ahead, so if I am, but Ms. Kaufman, under item number 1, the Office of the Governor, they've identified a number for a D, specific programs that they're deobligating funds for. Some of them appear to be children's mental health. I know that there's a lot of work that's been done around that. It is a current priority in the state. Not questioning sort of the decision, and I know we're going to get to that when we get to the governor's finance office, but I'm curious to know, is there a way for us to identify what money we're spending on those specific provider types or programs to help me better understand that we're supporting children's mental health or we're supporting seniors as we are deobligating funds?
Madam Chair, through you to Assemblymember Brown-May, I would have to defer to the governor's finance office on that.
Is someone here from the governor's finance office here or in Carson City that can answer that question?
Yes, hi, this is Tiffany Greenemeyer from the Governor's Finance Office. I do have Stacy Weeks to answer this question.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here today. Go ahead, Ms. Weeks, when you're ready.
Madam Chair, Stacy Weeks for the record. If I'm understanding the question, you're asking about provider type funding. The one way we could do it through Nevada Medicaid is look at actual spending, but just to flag that we get claims data at 6 months lag. So we'd have, if we're actually going to be pulling spending data to show you how provider types are being funded, I just want to flag that it's 6 months delayed usually, but we can put together a pie chart if that's helpful of spending by provider types, including children's behavioral health, which we've been working on.
Thank you for that clarification in the statement. That I think is exactly the direction that I'm heading. It really would be helpful to understand what are we investing in children's behavioral health? What are we investing in skilled nursing? What are we investing in hospitals? How are we breaking out each of the provider types to make sure that we are appropriately providing the support services necessary? And so I appreciate your efforts there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Any additional questions from any of the members? Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question on, it's page 19, line 200, where it has the savings deobligation of the roughly 9.2 million and some change, but it's coming from the universal free school meals. So is that savings that's on this sheet? Is that, let me frame this question right. I'm trying to understand if that savings has any kind of relationship to the 7.8 million that was found.
Mr. Thorley? Or, okay.
It's probably best for the GFO, but I can try.
Ms. Greenemeyer, are you there? Can you answer that question?
Tiffany Greenmeyer for the record. Let me bring up Lisa Galloway.
Thank you very much. Ms. Galloway, go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, Lisa Galloway for the record. Yes, the 90,000 that you're asking about on line 200, that was funding that was never spent when they finished the project in fiscal year 24, and it carried throughout 25 without being spent, and so they have chosen, the agency has chosen to deobligate it at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Thorley, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal. So, Senator Neal, I think, so your question was about the total savings, I believe, of the 9.3 million. Those savings were, most of those savings were already identified as savings and deobligations. The specific savings that is part of the emergency work programs on the agenda today that the governor already approved, it's only $90,516. It was basically additional savings that were identified for that project. And so you'll see that on the table that was provided, and that does make up, that $90,516 does make up a portion of the 7.8 million total that has been reallocated to the food insecurity project administered by the State Department of Agriculture.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right, thank you very much. Any additional questions from the committee here or in Carson City or online? I don't think I see any. So with that, thank you very much. And we are going to go on to C2, which will be presented by the governor's office. And I believe Mr. Palmer is going to do this. So Mr. Palmer, when you are ready, please begin.
And good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Curtis Palmer. I'm the Deputy Director for the Governor's Finance Office. With me today is Director Tiffany Greenemeyer and our ASO for Lisa Galloway. I'm pleased to present the statement of the American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Funds. The summary table has been provided as a handout, separate from the meeting packet. At the top of page 1 is a high-level summary displaying the expenditures from fiscal year 2022, 2023, and 2024, and a preliminary total of expenditures for fiscal year 2025 and 2026, reported as of October 16th, 2025. This table lists the program descriptions and amounts in chronological order based on the budgetary approval date. As of most recently this morning, this afternoon, October 30th, 2025, the ongoing federal government shutdown has disrupted several federally funded nutrition assistance programs, including SNAP services, which will expire on November 1st, 2025, unless a continuing resolution or other plan for funding SNAP benefits is passed at the federal level. In response, Nevada has proactively identified and reallocated excess ARPA funds to bolster the food security program through the State Department of Agriculture Commodity Foods Distribution Program. This strategic shift does not resolve the problem, but it does ensure the continuity of support for vulnerable populations facing heightened food insecurity due to the lapse in federal funding. In total, the State Department of Agriculture has put forward $8.6 million, which has been dispersed to the Food Bank of Northern Nevada and Three Square Food Bank in Southern Nevada. Together, they are working in a combined effort to deliver food throughout the state. The GFO ARPA team continues to monitor the federal websites for updates of any impact to the ARPA funds. At this point, there is no concern with the ARPA funds. As reported in our October 13th, 2025 response to the letter of intent from the 83rd session of the Nevada Legislature, due to the cybersecurity incident during the late August month of September, state agencies and the Governor's Finance Office, ARPA fiscal staff, are still working through lists of projects to compile a complete report for fiscal year 2025. The ARPA team is also determining ARPA funds to be deobligated if funds are not on track to be spent. This report will be reported at the December meeting of the Interim Finance Committee. And that concludes our report, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Vice Chair Monroe Moreno, did you have any questions at this point?
I'll have a few questions later on.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any additional questions for Mr. Palmer on this item? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Palmer. And stay tuned. We may have more questions. And next we will go to, that finishes C. And next we will go to agenda item E. And this is being taken out of order so that staff can present the IF contingency account balances before we get into the rest of the agenda. So item E, Mr. Thorley, when you are ready, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. I will be referencing the IFC contingency account statement, which can be found in the packet beginning on page 61 of the packet. If you're looking at the PDF, and it's actually page 62 of the actual PDF document. If you want to follow along with what I'm providing. The IFC contingency account, as a reminder, is generally broken out into three buckets. There's the unrestricted general fund portion, there's the unrestricted highway fund portion, and then there is the restricted general fund and highway fund portion. The restricted general fund and highway fund amounts are generally set aside via legislation from the prior legislative session for specific purposes to be allocated out based on approval of the Interim Finance Committee, whereas the unrestricted general fund and unrestricted highway fund portions are available to meet unanticipated needs that arise during the interim. Looking specifically at the unrestricted general fund portion, because that is where the two requests on the agenda reside. After the actions of the IFC 2 weeks ago, there was approximately $33.1 million remaining in the unrestricted general fund portion of the contingency account. There are two requests before the committee today on the agenda for allocations from the unrestricted general fund portion of the contingency account. They add up to $30.2 million. If both requests are approved at the dollar amount as recommended by the Board of Examiners earlier this week, there would be approximately $2.9 million remaining in the unrestricted general fund portion of the contingency account. That completes my presentation. If there's any questions from the committee members, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Thorley on this committee? Online? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And now we will go to items D and E, the emergency work programs and IFC contingency account allocation requests. So as we go back to item D, I would like to, and then we will hear jointly items E1 and E2. So agenda item D includes 9 emergency work program revisions that have already been approved by the governor. These work program revisions are being provided for informational purposes only, as they've already been approved. Items E1 and F2 are the 2 requests for allocation. So on this, I would invite Ms. Greenemeyer to give us some information for this. So please go ahead when you are ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Tiffany Greenemeyer, Director of the Governor's Finance Office, and here with me is Debbie Reynolds, Chief of Governor Lombardo. And before I get started, I do want to sincerely thank everyone for all the members for coming together on a short notice. It shows Nevadans that we can find solutions together, and so I do want to thank you sincerely. Starting with Agenda D, with the direction from the Governor's Finance Office submitted 9 ARPA work programs under NRS 353.220, Sections 5A. These work programs, in a combined total of 7.8 million deobligated closed projects and active partial ARPA projects across various state agencies. Also, the Department of Agriculture reallocated ARPA funds of $804,000, bringing the total reallocation of $8.6 million to support the Food Insecurity Program. These funds will be allocated to the Food Bank of Northern Nevada and 3 Square, located in Southern Nevada, including distributing food in the rural areas. A list of projects is included in your packet. We are able to reallocate these deobligated ARPA funds to agriculture because they had a current subaward with the GFO for food insecurity established prior to December 31st, 2024. And this is one solution that we are able to utilize immediately within the federal guidelines of the law. Moving on to agenda item F1. With the direction of the Governor's Finance Office requests an allocation of $30 million from the Interim Finance Committee contingency account to provide additional support for the Food Insecurity Program. These funds will go toward the food distribution efforts currently underway to all 17 counties in Nevada for all Nevadas in need of food assistance. This is our second proposal that we can address food insecurity immediately with the approval of IFC. This request, combined with ARPA funds, brings the total to $38.6 million for Food Insecurity Program. Moving on to agenda item 2, requests an allocation of $200,000 from the Interim Finance Committee contingency account to provide support to the National Guard for the active duty members, to provide additional logistics support to the food banks in distributing food. This concludes my presentation, and I do have representatives from both food banks, Director Gokatia from the Department of Agriculture and Administrator Robert Thompson from the Division of Social Services in Las Vegas, along with General Waters, to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that information. And I believe that Assembly Member Backus has a couple of questions.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. My questions are going to go under agenda item D, and this is in no way to disrespect, obviously, the fact we need to shift resources, and I appreciate the office, our fiscal team, with respect to the work that's been done. But just because a lot of the money that we had allocated in ARPA did go to, obviously, projects and purposes that Nevadans need. My question is going to pertain to how was it determined which of the ARPA funded projects were selected to be de-obligated? And I was mostly interested in those that were chosen to be partially de-obligated. I understand that there were savings from those that had already closed. Thanks.
Tiffany Griedemeyer for the record. We looked at, after the last IFC on October 16th, we started looking at all the ARPA projects that were over $1 million and had not spent a whole lot, and they had low percentages. And so we took those, we started reaching out to the agencies and had them work with their subrecipients, or if they didn't have it, then just look at their projections and let us know, can we de-obligate any of these funds? Originally, we started down the path of getting ready for the December IFC, but then we ran into the issue of needing more for food insecurity programs.
Thank you for that. And I just want to make sure, can you also confirm that, I know you said that there were some concerns like with our cybersecurity and maybe some delay, that the numbers we're looking at that you were able to already pull out, those figures I take it are accurate?
Tiffany Grienemeyer for the record, yes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, one more question. Thank you so much. And then last, I know with these ARPA money, we've been held to different rules with our latest rule with respect to being able to re-obligate these funds. Can you kind of explain how, whether or not it's appropriate that the de-obligation of these ARPA funds can be in fact utilized for the food security for Nevadans that you're proposing today?
Yes, the only way we were able to utilize the food insecurity program is that Department of Agriculture has a current subaward with GFO that was prior to December 31st, 2024. So it's still open, and we are able to allocate additional funding to that subaward to continue that food insecurity program.
Thank you very much. And Assemblymember Haddocky, did you have a question or two?
I have many questions, Madam Chair, but if that's okay with you, I'm going to ask a couple right now and then maybe give the members time to ask questions, and if it circle back, because I do have questions about the future of how we get food to Nevadans. And just a couple of questions to start. Can you confirm whether payments to the food banks have already been made? I want to make sure that they are resourced up by the time November 1st comes. So as Nevadans go to them, there's going to be resources there at the food bank for them to start taking advantage of.
Yes, Tiffany Grienemeyer for the record. Yes, we have already sent out payments to Food Bank of Northern Nevada and 3 Square. We sent out the complete $8.6 million for right now.
Okay, and also, what kind of information did you get from the food banks about, I guess, constituent requests? Have they seen an uptick since October 1st?
Tiffany Grienemeyer for the record, yes, they have seen an uptick since from the last month, from October 1st. I do have representatives from the food bank, and they can speak to their programs.
If we could, I'd like to know what kind of numbers we're dealing with. Thank you. I see them approaching the witness tables, but I'd like to know what kind of uptick we've seen since October 1st from what they were regularly seeing and what we can expect. And then I do have one more question after the food banks give an update, Madam Chair, if that's okay.
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Hi, Beth Martino, President and CEO of 3 Square for the record. Over the last 4 months, we have seen a 16% increase already in people coming into the food pantries and programs that we work with. We don't have, we collect data on a monthly basis from our partners, so we don't have numbers for October, but I can tell you anecdotally that we have certainly seen an increase above and beyond that, in that we have been doing additional distributions that we did not previously have scheduled just exclusively to meet federal workers. So we've done TSA distributions, FAA, CBP, all of the alphabet soup there, but lots of federal workers that we've seen coming in. And we have been contacted by several of our partners to say that they needed more food, that they were actually running out of food at distributions because we were sending at the levels we had been over the last 4 months, and that was not adequate to meet the need that had been coming in. We do anticipate as of this weekend that, again, these are really rough estimates, and so I wouldn't take any of them to the bank, but that based on what we know about the participation that we get at pantries now, that 25 to 35% of the SNAP recipients who do not receive benefits on November 1st would likely seek resources from a food pantry. And so in terms of the pounds that we would need of food, which is sort of the food bank measurement of our work, we expect in Southern Nevada that we would need to almost double our distribution in order to meet that need. So an additional 3 to 4 million pounds of food per month to try to reach SNAP recipients.
Thank you for that. And then if we could go up to the north, and then I do have a couple of questions.
Good afternoon, committee. Shane Piccinini with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. We have not seen from July to September a significant increase in the number of people that we're serving. However, I do want to put on the record that we have been serving 160,000 people a month over that period. So the need has not been low. To put that into context, before the pandemic, we were hovering around like 98,000, somewhere in that range. And so we are expecting moving forward to see, like around a 25% starting November 1st increase, which would equate to around 40,000 additional people. And that would mean, anecdotally around 2 or 3 million additional pounds that would be required for us to be able to meet that need like right away.
Thank you for those updates. And Madam Chair, if I could ask a question, thank you. And so, Ms. Martino, this is probably more of a question for you. You had mentioned that you guys were running out of food during distributions just because of the amount of federal workers that now need assistance. And we're expecting 500,000 more Nevadans to need assistance as well. The resources being provided here today, how long do you think that will cover the type of need that you can project coming into 3 Square?
I guess I would make a 2-part answer to that question. So Beth Martino, 3 Square for the record. First is that this is exactly what the food banks are here to do. So absolutely these resources are meaningful and we will move as quickly as possible to get them into the community. But I'm always going to be honest, this is not enough to meet the need. And there's probably no way that philanthropy can fill this gap. The answer is to reopen the government and run these programs as intended. So I wouldn't want to mislead anyone in that even this level of investment is not sufficient to meet the need from a dollar amount or from how quickly we can move it. One of the reasons that SNAP is such an effective hunger relief program is because it's highly efficient. It's a program that simply loads money onto cards that then individuals, families can use at their leisure and in grocery stores supporting our economy. We have to get food in the door, which we are already doing, and then we have to get it back out the door and into the homes of the neighbors all across Nevada, and that takes time. So it's not as efficient, and that's one of the challenges that we'll face. So I would expect that this investment today will take us 10 to 12 weeks to move back into the community at minimum.
So you expect 10 to 12 weeks. And I was just doing some quick numbers. So you were running out of food and in the state of Nevada, we only have 22,500 federal employees. So 22,000, that's a fraction of the 500,000 people who are going to lose food assistance come November 1st. And you were running out of the ability to provide assistance. If I could, just one question for the governor's office, and then I promise I'll hand it off to my colleagues, Madam Chair, because I know we all have questions. But how are we going to get notification out to SNAP recipients? Because one of my biggest concerns is that there's a big population of people who aren't going to know that they need to go to a food bank to get food on November 1st. They're going to wake up and they're going to go grocery shopping. They're going to buy foods and they're going to realize that they can no longer use their SNAP benefits. So how are we getting the word out to SNAP recipients that on November 1st, there's going to be a new way for them to get food assistance? Because there's going to be people with language barriers. There's going to be seniors who don't use social media. There's going to be people who don't have vehicles. And we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can. If this is how people are going to be getting their food, how are they going to know?
Go ahead, please, when
Kelly
you're ready.
Cantrell for the record, Division of Welfare and Supportive Service, or Division of Social Services. So we have an extensive communication plan that we've already been working on. And once we know exactly what's going on with food banks, we will implement this into the communication plan. But we have done social media blasts. We have done text messaging to the customers. Our website, the DSS website, and the application website where someone goes to apply has up-to-date information so that customers can get it there. We've done multiple news media outreach. We have things running on the TV screens at the DMV, at a DCFS, so anybody that goes into there. I'm working closely with the Retailer Association of Nevada. We even created flyers with them for them to be able to have in the grocery stores available to the customers there. We are working closely with the food banks. We have their distribution information ready to roll out to all of our customers as soon as we get the word to go out on this. We have 22 offices throughout the state. We have 232 community partner sites that our workers are sitting in to get the word out. We have 10 trusted partner entities that take applications on our behalf that have all of the information that we have. And so it's a comprehensive communication plan.
And I appreciate that. I've had conversations with constituents today, this morning at a coffee shop, and two of them hadn't even heard that SNAP benefits were running out on Sunday and hadn't seen any information on the news. And these are people who are, very capable of getting on social media, going online, watching the news, and hadn't heard a single thing. And what I'm hearing is that it's going to take 10 to 12 weeks to deploy the resources that we're granting here today. Nevadans are going to go hungry on Sunday.
Thank you very much. Speaker Yeager.
Thank you so much, Chair. And, I have probably a lot of questions that we better held until later, but I did have a question on item D, and I think this is probably for the governor's office. And I know these have already been approved, and this is just information only, but I was looking at item D7, which was the deobligation or deletion of 1.25 million in ARPA funds for DCFS wraparound intensive care services. And I know we've had a lot of discussion about that program in particular. So my question was, I think in the presentation, you said a lot of these deobligations or deletions were money that were not being spent. Is that the case in item number 7? And then I was trying to look at that spreadsheet and I couldn't find on there what the total ARPA allocation was for that program. So if you're able to point me to that, I just would like a sense of how much of the total allocation the 1.25 million deletion represents.
Tiffany Greenemeyer for the record. I do have a representative from DCFS that could provide us with the numbers.
Good afternoon, Councilman Cannavaro. For the record, I am the Administrative Services Officer for the Division of Child and Family Services. The original allocation for the wraparound services was approximately $14.6 million, and that was awarded I'll get that exact date. But over the last several years, we have extended the project. And then I also have Ann Jensen from the Nevada Health Authority to answer any programmatic questions.
Chair, could I just ask a quick follow-up? I appreciate the 14.6. I guess the question was, 1.25 million it's a decent amount of money for this particular program. And so could you just clarify that I'm not debating the merits of the program we're going to approve here today. It's needed, but I'm just trying to get a sense, was this funding that just could not be expended under that authorization because the demand wasn't there or the providers weren't there? I just want some kind of comfort level that we're not taking from one pot of money to put it in another place, that indeed it was something that just couldn't be spent under the parameters it was allocated for.
Madam Chair, Ann Jensen for the record, Administrator of Nevada Medicaid. I've been working closely with Kelsey and team, as well as the contractor that's utilizing these funds for the program, to identify a path forward to ensure that our children's behavioral health funding is not impacted by this change. We have a clear path forward identified to ensure the primary aims of this grant program can still be met. Those are, number one, to develop the provider infrastructure for community-based behavioral health providers and care coordinators that historically have not received funding through our state-funded healthcare programs. The second aim is to provide direct funding to providers when Medicaid is unable to do so yet. The good news is we're receiving approval from the federal government to cover these services. We received our first approval last month. And so as that begins to come online and we can draw down federal dollars, the funding through this grant program is no longer needed to directly provide those funds. And so through this combination of resources, we've identified a way to ensure that the provider infrastructure funding is not touched and the direct support to providers for services that Medicaid does not cover continues. And that will allow this contract to continue through the term in December 2026. Happy to answer any additional questions.
No, I think that covers it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And I believe Assemblymember Hibbets has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two, if that's okay.
Yep.
Since we have the food banks here, I'll start with them. According to the documentation that you've submitted, the Northern Nevada Food Bank is expecting a 25% surge, and Three Squares expecting 25-30%. However, you've also said that you're anticipating needing double the amount of product that you currently get. According to a fact sheet from the governor's office, food banks will continue ordering from their known vendors and processors. Are these known vendors and processors prepared to increase their distribution to the two food banks this quickly, or will you have to go outside to find other avenues of product?
Beth Martino, Three Square for the record. Thus far, we have not encountered any challenges in sourcing food. We began increased ordering at the beginning of last week, and thus far we haven't encountered any problems. We have both turned to our traditional partners that we source from, as well as adding additional large distributors and manufacturers. We've also been able to turn to Feeding America, which is sort of our parent entity, and work with them to bring more food in. So we haven't yet had a problem. Of course, we will monitor closely, and if we begin having any difficulties with sourcing, we will address that as it comes up.
Shane Piccinini, Food Bank of Northern Nevada. Our response is the same. We've been able to pretty progressively get some orders in and start getting those trucks on the road for us without any real limitations. If any delays start to happen, then for sure we would let you know.
Thank you very much. All right, I believe that you have one more. Go ahead, please, and then we'll go to Assemblymember Hafen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm not sure who would be best to answer this one, whether it would be Ms. Greenemeyer or our own staff. For F1 and F2, we're being asked to allocate $30.2 million. And in the unlikely event that sanity reigns in DC tomorrow or the next day, is there some sort of language within this that would allow us to bring that money back to the IFC contingency account? And if not, can we please add that to the motion when we get there.
Tiffany Greenemeyer for the record. Yes, if tomorrow's the federal government were to come back, we could take these dollars and revert them back to the general fund or revert them back to the IFC contingency fund. And that should be written up in the resolution by LCB.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
I'm going to ask Ms. Kaufman to please weigh in on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we've been working with our legal staff to draft the resolution. And as part of the draft resolution, if this is approved, it includes language where if the federal government resumes operations prior to November 30th, that funding would be reverted back to the IFC contingency account effective December 31st so that it can continue to be utilized during this interim. However, there's further language in the draft resolution that if the federal government continues to be shut down beyond November 30th, that funding could be utilized for the duration of the fiscal year. So the reversion date would then be June 30th, 2026.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Assemblymember Hafen.
Thank you, Chair. And most of my questions have been asked already. And I really greatly appreciate all that you guys are doing. The one question, though, that I think I still have out there is in regards to how we're going to distribute the food to the rural and frontier communities. And hopefully you guys could address that.
Beth Martino at 3 Square. So we, in addition to Clark County, we serve 3 rural counties, Lincoln, 9, Esmeralda, and we have existing partner relationships in those areas. So part of our strategy is to surge food to those partners to ensure that in the locations where the neighbors that we serve now are accustomed to going, they would be able to receive additional support there. And oftentimes what we find is that, especially in the rural areas, those are trusted locations for other members of the community as well. So our intent at the moment is in those counties to surge food to the partners that we currently work with, but also to remain in communication with our partners if there's enhanced need that they're seeing, that we would set up pop-up distributions, essentially emergency distributions at alternate locations. The other component for us, we do have a small part of what we do that is home delivery to the rural areas. So we'll be looking at ways to add to the home delivery program for anyone that's unable to come out to a distribution.
Good afternoon, Shane Piccinini for the record. We have got 145 partner agencies across the 13 counties that we serve, and we are working actively with those partner agencies to bolster the product that they have. And we also have got a direct service mobile harvest that we will be sending out and increasing the food distribution through that network as well.
Thank you both. And then just as a follow-up to that, I know we touched on how we're going to get the message out, but in the event that you do the pop-ups or additional home deliveries, do we have a mechanism in place or a plan in place to get that word out that, hey, these are now going to be additional locations? If you could just, you're nodding your head yes, so if we could just get it on the record. Hopefully the media is listening and can get that message out there for us.
Beth Martino at 3 Square. For our part, in addition to all the things described by the state to directly reach SNAP recipients, we are employing every channel that we have available to us at 3 Square and through our community partners. So that would include our website presence, which is the best place for people to go, on our social media, but we've been working all the traditional media channels as well and had fairly broad coverage. What we know, though, is that that's still not enough. We just need to keep looking for every single method that we can. So arming all of our partners with that information is another piece. As the Food Bank of Northern Nevada shared, between the two food banks, we have in excess of 300 local organizations that we work with. So we're trying to encourage all of them to use their channels as well. So whether they have email lists or social media or other mechanisms that they can employ, we're requesting that they do that to help spread the word from all of the channels that we have available to us. We also are looking at paid advertising, so buying billboards as well as social media ads to enhance the things that we can do at low to no cost.
Shane Piccinini for the record. We are, in addition to everything that Beth just said, we're also able to send out messaging directly through our Oasis software package that we use to that we use to track our neighbors in. We can directly send those out as well. We do have a very comprehensive community communication strategy, and we are in constant daily communication with our partner agencies, urban and in the rural areas. So while we may not be able to reach everybody today, we're fairly confident we can get to everybody eventually.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will go to Senator Buck. Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll go to Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, thank you all for the excellent questions and for all those at the table. This is a money committee, and I just want to make sure we're have a clear line of where the money's coming from, how much is being spent, and the best use of the money. So this is the F1 is a $30 million request to come out of our contingency fund. That's in addition to the $7.8 million that has already been allocated that we found that we're moving from the ARPA fund. So it would be a total of almost $40 million. Is that correct?
Tiffany Greenmeyer for the record. Yes, that's correct.
And then understanding the budget. So there was a comment earlier, I think by Three Squares, that again, this isn't money being loaded onto somebody's food stamp card or in that kind of SNAP program. What the direction we're taking here is because with this shutdown, it's not just it's in addition to the folks that are already on the SNAP program, we are looking out for our federal employees who also will be in need if this does not resolve of food. And so we're trying to do the best we can to cover all Nevadans impacted by this. And so the thought process is the money will go the furthest if we invest it in our food banks. So anybody who is needing food, regardless of the cause, can access this food. Is that correct?
Tiffany Greenmeyer for the record. Yes, that is correct. The whole intent is to make sure all Nevadans can have access for food that need assistance.
Right. So this is not, again, an extension of the monies on somebody's card that they just reload each month. It is actually available food for them. Now, the food, I understand that through these programs, it actually, you can, instead of an individual going to a store to buy a set amount of food, doing it this way actually will potentially have more food available. Is that also correct, that the way you could purchase and purchasing power will go further than anybody having an individual account?
Hi, this is Debbie Reynolds. I serve as the Deputy Chief of Staff to Governor Lombardo. You are correct. The intent really is to make the dollar go further. I believe Administrator Thompson is in the audience, and he can speak to a little bit more about the SNAP benefits. You know, there's a subset of the population that I think it's roughly 16% that have households that only receive $100 or less in SNAP benefits. And by going the route of the food banks, we can ensure that we're actually providing meals to those households during this shutdown period. I'm not sure if Administrator Thompson has anything more to add.
Robert Thompson for the record, Administrator for the Division of Social Services. I don't have anything to add. Ms. Reynolds stated exactly what I was going to say.
Great. And last question, if I might, Madam Chair, I just want, so I'm very supportive of this kind of approach because I think we'll reach more people. The key is going to be communicating to everyone, all Nevadans out there, that, hey, there is food available. What I also need to know is there's been a lot of rumbling, whether people agree or not agree, on what you could purchase with these on your card. You go to the store, you purchase, there's certain things you can't. I know that alcohol, et cetera, I don't think you're allowed to do, but there's other things, and people will disagree sometimes on what's healthy and what's not healthy. And so the type of food that's available at the food banks, can you quickly, there are sometimes, there's fresh vegetables at times, there's other healthy products. Can you explain exactly what the type of food is that will be available?
Beth Martino, 3 Square. So I guess I'd provide 2 pieces of response to that. First, in the situation we are currently faced with, we are focusing more on shelf-stable items only because we don't know how long this shutdown could last. And if you are someone who is relying on SNAP benefits to fill out your pantry, being able to stretch those items as long as you can is really essential. So providing you with fresh food in large quantities that you have to cook immediately could make a challenging situation. And we also know for folks that may be, especially some of our folks with less stable housing situations, may not have a way to prepare those types of items. So we are looking at a heavier shelf-stable purchase than we normally would. That being said, I would also just provide for context, last year, 3 Square distributed approximately 50 million pounds of food, and almost 60% of that was protein, fresh fruits and vegetables, and dairy. So under normal circumstances, we do have quite a bit of those kinds of items that I think most would agree fall into a healthier category. So we will, of course, have those foods available at many of our distributions, but we will have a higher concentration of shelf-stable foods.
I promise, Madam Chair, last question, just to clarify for me, I think 2 different budget items in that, what do the food pantries typically spend a month? I'm looking at $90 million a month, but is that different? Is that what the food stamp program is, or the SNAP program, the separate bite of what do the food pantries normally spend a month versus what does the federal government spend on the SNAP program? And I think there's 2 separate items there.
Robert Thompson for the record. I can confirm that the SNAP program issues an average of $90 million a month to Nevadans.
All right. What does the food pantries spend a month?
Beth Martino at 3 Square. Well, in terms of how much food we typically purchase, just purchased only, at 3 Square, we typically spend a little less than $1 million a month in purchasing. That might not get directly to what you're asking if you're looking at more how do the quantities compare, because we have other sources of food besides purchase, such as donated food and government commodities. But perhaps to the heart of the question, even this level of investment is not enough to fill that gap. It certainly makes great progress and will ensure that people have a place to turn and that there is food available. But it doesn't come close to meeting that need or filling that gap that SNAP normally would.
Thank you very much. And we're going to
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And we're going to go to Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I, first and foremost, I think that last point, Ms. Martino, talk to us a little bit about that. It's not enough to fill the gap between bringing on 500,000 SNAP recipients who are food insecure and also with the number of federal workers that we have. Can you just maybe talk a little bit more about that? Because I find that to be a very interesting point.
Sure. Beth Martino, 3 Square for the record. In an average year, in terms of unique individuals that we serve, 3 Square serves about 350,000 people for context. And so we're talking about some portion of them being SNAP eligible already or on that program. But there's no question that the volume of people that we're talking about today is substantially higher than that. There are many, on a monthly basis, we're serving tens of thousands of people. Many of them are repeat customers to food pantries and food programs. Federal workers, of course, we have around 20,000 federal workers here in the state. So both food banks are working really hard to serve that population as well. When it kind of comes down to it, the challenge here is not as much even the dollar figure, it's the time that it'll take us to get out and get this food to people. It's making them aware of it, it's the distribution. It takes time, and we have to collect some information from each person that comes through. We have logistics to consider. And so all of those things mean that as much as we will do here, the best solution is, of course, to pay SNAP benefits, to have the government reopen and do that.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I think that there is some misconception about what it is we are filling the need for. Obviously, the idea that SNAP benefits are going to run out is extremely concerning for 500,000 Nevadans, where these benefits make the difference between them being able to feed their kids. And if you've never had to grasp change in your hand to hope that when you get to the store, you have enough to buy a little bit of milk, then you don't understand what a lot of Nevadans struggle with every single day. And while I appreciate, and this might be a little bit more of a comment, and I probably have a couple more questions, but it is incredibly frustrating to be staring down the barrel of all of those families and folks not being able to continue to feed their families on the idea that somehow we're going to fill that gap with the extraordinary efforts that I know that you are taking on and that your partners up north are going to take on. But frankly, it does not account for things like transportation, people who are disabled, elderly who consistently have transportation issues with even being able to get to a place, let alone a place in their own neighborhood, let alone making sure that they can make it to a food bank or a local partner who's going to be able to dole out food to them, that then they're going to be able to take home and somehow prepare for themselves. That there are language access issues, that people live in food deserts where the place where they are getting their food is a convenience store, because that is the closest place to their house to be able to get food. SNAP benefits allow these people to feed their families. And I take a little bit of offense, frankly, to the idea that somehow this will just be better for these people because they might be getting access to fresher foods. Yes, we should be giving people fresher foods. Yes, we should be promoting healthy lifestyles. But when you are trying to make every single penny count, and it doesn't make sense for you to buy fresh produce at the store, and it makes more sense for you to buy something that is shelf stable, that is just the reality for some folks. And so I find that to be extremely condescending for folks, hardworking folks who are trying to make this work. I know that this is not a perfect solution, but I commend your efforts, and I commend the plan that has come together on this program, because I do think that we have to have some short-term solutions to try and get food out to as many folks as we can. But please do not mistake that what we do here today alleviates the idea that we are losing food access for 500,000 Nevada families. And it's not enough to fill the gap. So, Ms. Martino, I have wanted to ask you, how much truly, if you were going to fill that entire need for the state of Nevada, and I'm sorry, up north as well, if you were to fill that need for the entire state of Nevada, how much money would that truly take, if you can quantify that?
Beth Martino, 3 Square for the record, would say it would take at least $90 million if we're looking at purchasing food to replace those benefits. But truthfully, even that amount of money, to me, the challenge still comes down to logistics, in that at any food distribution, I would not expect, and to your point, we always try to serve people with dignity, and I would not expect it to be a dignified system where seniors or families have to wait 8 hours in a car line to get a box of food. And that's what we would be faced with if we, and frankly, we will see what happens on Saturday. We may start to see that occurring on Saturday. Of course, we are going to run the most efficient operation that we can. I know our partners in Northern Nevada will do the same, and we have the support of the National Guard and the state and many partners turning out to help us. But even in the best of circumstances, that dollar amount, while it would allow us to get food on the shelves and in warehouses that we could eventually move, there is still a logistics challenge. And I wanted to be candid about that so that no one here is wondering why it is that we suddenly do not have an infusion of food into the community at that level. So no dollar amount would allow us to be out in the next 2 weeks serving 90 million pounds of food to Nevadans. I think that would be impossible.
And I appreciate that very realistic expectation as we are searching for solutions and grappling with what is a very real problem here in Nevada. And for many families, if you think about a working class family who is utilizing SNAP benefits because you have parents who are working multiple jobs and kids who are in school and they're trying to figure out how to make ends meet, and that SNAP benefit makes a difference between them being able to put food on the table or not, trying to find the time to sit in an 8-hour line to get a box of food is just not, it's just not feasible for them because they also can't afford to lose their jobs. And so I appreciate, and I don't want that to be understated, I appreciate this as a solution to help with food insecurity. The idea that we are in this situation is remarkable. The idea that we are not searching for some additional ways in which we can try to make sure that these folks access food. I think we're all up here very frustrated by the situation because ultimately the folks who are going to suffer are Nevadans, and a lot of them children, and a lot of them families. And I will just end with, I think there's probably a lot more questions on this. I know we're trying to do our best to make sure that people know about this, but I will tell you that I had a SNAP recipient reach out to me and say, well, do you think that because the first falls on a Saturday that we might just get the benefits loaded on Friday or Thursday, like maybe we could get another week's worth of food? And I had to tell them, no, that's not what's going to happen. And it is incredibly heartbreaking to be in that situation because that family is relying on those to put food on the table for kids. Thank you, Madam Chair. I probably have some other questions that are more logistical in nature, but I can wait until other folks have had an opportunity.
Thank you very much. We do have Senator Wynn in the queue, so I'll let her go ahead.
Thank you. You answered some of the questions as it related to some of the logistic hurdles in getting this food distributed. So I think you've answered some of those questions. I guess my question is, and you've kind of alluded to the partners that your partners, I am assuming with other nonprofit organizations and other food shelters. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on that? I mean, obviously you have a big operation, but if all of this food is landing for you to distribute, what is the plan to distribute it to some of these other organizations and other nonprofits that are in our community doing this same work?
Beth Martino, 3 Square for the record. I'm sure our partners in Northern Nevada can speak to their work as well. But our strategy here is threefold. The first is to continue to do our own emergency distributions. So that's part one. But part two, which will actually, I think, move more food more efficiently. And this is where the food bank network and program, I think, really shines and comes into play here. We have at 3 Square more than 150 community partners. We have been reaching out to them since the beginning of last week, asking how much capacity they have to serve more and how much additional food they can accept. So we have already scheduled deliveries next week and additional distributions with many of the partners who indicated they were able to accommodate that so that they can serve more people and receive more food from us. So that is an essential part, and it's really why I think the food banks are the best mechanism for this, because we work with so many organizations, and even today, the partners that you've already heard from, when they're reaching out and saying, we have people who are recipients of these programs, our response is immediately, we'll get a delivery out to you. So, and we have fresh shelf stable, and frozen meals that can be delivered for all of those. So we're able to deploy all those resources toward that. And I'm sure our partners in Northern Nevada can speak to that. The third part of our strategy, as well as I mentioned, is to also increase home delivery. At 3 Square, we operate both independently and in conjunction with our partners, a number of home delivery options that are targeted to seniors. So we'll look at ways to increase those in partnership with the organizations we work with and through our own mechanisms as well.
Shane,
and kind of following up. Sorry, go ahead.
Shane Piccinini with the Food Bank in Northern Nevada. We also have started deliveries this week. Initially, we started with 40 of our partner agencies to bolster them immediately, and then we will start to build out from there. We're also bolstering up our own mobile distributions across our service area with perishable and non-perishable items. So we are rapidly building up the inventory to be able to respond. And then we've got up here in the north on Saturday, there's going to be, I believe, 4 special distributions happening.
Senator Wynn, if I might, this is Debbie Reynolds. I also wanted to add that we do have General Waters in the audience in the South, and we are prepared. The National Guard is prepared to assist in the food distribution efforts, and I believe he is prepared to speak to those efforts.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do see him here in the audience as well. I think you may have answered this, but if this $30 million allocation from the IFC contingency account is approved here today, and this might be for GFO and this might be for the food banks or a combination in the answer, do you have any concerns about being able to spend that money quickly? I mean, obviously, I think there's some logistic problems in getting it. What kind of lead time do you need in making those orders? I know that there is, and it's kind of a complex question, so I'm going to just kind of put it all out there. Hopefully you can take bits and parts of it. So I guess, are you going to be able to spend that money quickly and efficiently? 1, 2, obviously I think there's a focus on shelf stable, which I understand. And I think that's probably appropriate since we aren't going to be able to distribute fresh food instantaneously like you would at a grocery store if SNAP benefits were still available. I guess my other question is, how much lead time do you have to be able to order that food? Because I know that there is an indication that it's not like we're just going to roll out $30 million at once. I just have concerns for our nonprofit partners that if they purchase that food and then the government opens up and they've just spent $1.5 million on food, and now we're like, oh, well, it's opened up, so we're not going to give that back to you. So how do we all see that playing out? So I guess that's a combination question for GFO as well as the food banks.
Tiffany Greenmar for the record. No, we would pay the food bank that purchased $1 million worth of food. We wouldn't let them hang out there. I'll let the food bank answer the other questions.
Shane Piccinini for the record. We have already spent this week about $1 million on food, expecting to get those trucks in, as soon as possible. I don't anticipate us having any issues spending the money or getting the food out. I think, the biggest part is just the supply chain of just making sure that the trucks are able to get here, as fast as the producer or the distributor is able to get it to us.
Thank you. Do you have any concerns? Obviously, we're not the only state that is having issues with this and are looking at supplementing and trying to not replace a program, but fill a little bit of this gap. Do we have any concerns that we are going to run into shortages of food because all of our neighboring Western states are doing the same thing?
Beth Martino at 3 Square. We haven't run into that yet. And we haven't been signaled from any of our suppliers that was a challenge at the moment. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I do know that states are all exploring different options. And I read as I was coming here today, there are some states that have found some ways to get money on gift cards or other cards. We know some states are doing taking action similar to what Nevada is doing. So it's a bit of a patchwork of programs. So I'm not sure if all of our Western states are facing the same kind of situation and trying to source this volume of food. We will certainly stay in communication if we are having any difficulty sourcing food. And that is part where I think in terms of the food banks being a good partner in this effort, we can reach out to our network nationally and look for other sources of food if we are having any difficulty working with our regular suppliers.
Shane
And have
Piccinini.
you, oh, sorry, again.
I just want to put on the record, Shane Piccinini, Food Bank of Northern Nevada, that we are pulling from similar vendors. So that is, I guess, potentially a possibility. But we haven't had that happen yet, and this is not like the pandemic where the supply chain was completely broken. I think that we're dealing with a situation where we just need to pivot a little bit and redistribute where the existing inventory is going.
And you had mentioned that you had done some outreach, or someone had indicated they had done outreach to retailers and grocery stores to redirect and let people know when they are in the grocery stores doing that. I mean, I think what sometimes people forget is, in addition to these families, this 500,000, Nevadans that are going to be affected by this federal shutdown and the lack of SNAP benefits, is the ripple effect that we are going to have on our business community. That is $90 million that is not going into local convenience stores, grocery stores, any of these places where food can be purchased. So in addition to that, and this might be a question for the GFO, have you had those extensive conversations with the retailers and the grocery store and the chambers about the economic impact that a reduction in $90 million is going to have on our local economy?
Tiffany Greenmeyer for the record. No, I have not had direct conversations with the retailers. I do have concerns because we are not, putting $90 million in the economy. I mean, that could make a big difference in our own state revenues. So I am, along with LCB Fiscal, are continuing to watch the revenues.
Kelly Cantrell.
Go ahead.
Kelly Cantrell for the record. I have spoken with the Retailers Association. They know exactly what is not going to be going out in SNAP. They know when, they know the amount. Does that solve anything? Not necessarily, but they're aware. The retailers are aware through our communication. But
sorry, and I know that Mr. Wachter was here earlier, but I think he has stepped out. But I would like to see what kind of other conversations I think, this is a money committee. I think Senator Titus had mentioned it. The ripple effect of $90 million, what does that mean for our incoming revenue? What kind of what other programs are we ultimately going to have to look at cutting because we don't have the money coming in from tax revenue from all these sales that are taking place in our community? I just, I'm wondering what kind of business resources that the GFO is considering to help these businesses that a lot of them are smaller businesses in our community, whether it's a local convenience store where people go to because they're in a food desert. And chances are, if they're in a food desert, they tend to be in a location that has a high proportion of SNAP beneficiaries in that area. So I'm curious to see what kind of programming we're doing to also help the small businesses that are also going to feel the pain for this as well. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And I believe Vice Chair Monroe Moreno has some questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And a lot of them have been answered through questions of other members. But first, I want to thank the GFO, her staff, our LCB fiscal staff. and the leadership in both houses for the work that's been done leading up to this IFC meeting. You know, there was a comment made earlier that, you know, we're a money committee, and that is true. We are a money committee, but we're a money committee that today we're dealing with as a social issue. We're dealing with a food insecurity issue. We're dealing with a social issue because there's conversation of utilizing the National Guard. And this is exactly what the National Guard is designed to do in our communities, to help. But the National Guard has been weaponized in recent weeks by the federal government. So in using them to do what they're supposed to be doing, may get pushback from people who are afraid to go and interact to get the food that they need for their families for fear of other things that we've seen that's happening throughout the country. And yes, we're dealing with an economic issue. When we talk about people not having the ability to choose what they want to purchase for their families, what they want to put on their dinner tables and in their children's lunch boxes, because they do not have the money on their SNAP card, will have a definite impact on our small businesses and our larger grocers as well, as was stated by one of the members earlier. So this is one solution. Just one. And I appreciate us coming up with this and working together to come up with this solution. But there's going to be, and we need layered solutions. We must find a way to provide funding for those who receive SNAP benefits, because it's not just those families, as you've heard today. It's the families that get those resources. And it's the businesses where they spend those resources. And it's giving them the dignity to choose what they have on the table for their families. So it's that. So my question, and I have so many, and thank you to both food banks for choosing shelf-stable foods. Because while, yes, I love my vegetables and my family loves fruits, they often go bad and moldy a lot quicker than something shelf stable that a family can utilize and use over a longer period. So thank you for that. But my question goes back to the social issue. How are we planning to utilize the National Guard in helping us get the foods to families and utilize them in a way that people feel safe to go stand in a line or carpool with a neighbor because they don't have a car to go to the local food bank in their communities? Can you tell me that?
This is Shane Piccini with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. Our CEO, Nicole Amboli, is, I believe, on Zoom and could be able to answer that question for us.
Good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity. Nicole Amboli, President and CEO, Food Bank of Northern Nevada. Speaking for the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, where we will really utilize the Guard members' support will be in our warehouse and logistics operation, helping our warehouse team with receiving orders, picking orders that will go out on our trucks for distribution. We, like 3 Square, the great thing about the Feeding America Network and our food banks is we all operate the same or similar, but different. So we utilize the resources of volunteers. We are getting requests from volunteers to help distribute food. So the Guard will be used to support our logistics and warehousing operations, and our community members will be available to support our distributions because we do believe it is neighbors serving neighbors.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, committee. I am Daniel Waters, DANIEL-WATERS, the Adjutant General for the great state of Nevada. And it's always such a privilege to be here in front of the legislature and the Senate members. So thank you. What I would say is let's not fall into the trap of allowing the Guard to be weaponized. We're Nevada. We're coming together. We're coming up with a solution that is good for Nevada. Yes, Nevada National Guard members will be involved as the director just stated, mostly it is within the warehouses, helping pack food, deliver food internally, I should say, package those foods. But we do have some requests to deliver out to the rural communities as the governor has directed. That said, the Guard will not be involved in handing out the food. However, I would say I think this is a great opportunity to get the picture of the Guard. These are members of our community. These are Nevadans helping Nevadans, part of the solution. And that's an important piece that we all have to remember. So thank you for allowing me here today. And I'm always open for any questions of the Nevada National Guard.
Well, thank you so much for that, because I have family members who are members of the Guard. And as I said at the beginning, this is exactly what our National Guard should be doing. And I think it's a golden opportunity for us to change the narrative of how the Guard has been utilized, not by Nevada, not by this legislative body, but by our the current federal administration in communities across this country in a way that brings fear from community members in their interactions with the National Guard. And that should never, never be the case. That's not why the National Guard was formed, in my opinion, as a military brat. So thank you for what you are doing. And thank you for both of the food banks understanding that the situation of where we're at, right? We went through COVID and you guys had to jump through hoops to come up with ways to feed families then. But that was a national disaster emergency situation that wasn't caused by any man. This is a man-made emergency that we don't have to be in. But it's going to take all of us working together to solve it for Nevadans. And the one thing we need to do in our thought process of everything is to make sure that we're putting Nevada families first. We have people who are going to be feeling food insecurities that have never felt them before because of the shutdown, on top of the families who are already food insecure. That's layering the work for you, it's layering the work for us. And we need to have a layered approach to both finding a way to fund SNAP benefits and provide additional resources at our food banks for everyone to utilize, and giving families, all families, no matter what their economic situation is today, or it was last week or a month ago before the federal shutdown, the dignity they have to make sure that they're able to take care of their families on a daily basis with dignity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And before you leave, I have a question, but while I'm asking your question, Mr. Wachter, would you please come forward? We need you to answer a couple questions, and I believe you were out of the room when they were asked. My question for you, General, is how was the average cost of that $400 per member per day determined? Do you know?
Dan Waters for the record. Yes, ma'am. What we do is we average the cost per rank on state active duty. Funding or income is based on the rank of the individual. So we average that. This particular mission will be heavy in our operator ranks, which are typically in our lower enlisted, our junior enlisted folks. So that's why it's specifically adjusted for that. However, there will be folks that make more than $400 an hour, or $400 a day, rather, I should say. It's just averaged out.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, I believe the majority leader, was it you that, or was it Senator Wynn, Senator Neal? I don't remember who it was down there that asked the question, but somebody chime in, had a question for Mr. Wachter.
Thank you. I guess I'll go ahead and ask the question. I know you had stepped out. You've been here the whole afternoon. And when, of course, I had some questions, I realized you had stepped out of the room. But I had asked the GFO, like, what kind of economic impact, what kind of conversations they had had with the Retail Association, chambers, other business community that's also impacted by the potential, or not even potential, it's looming, $90 million impact on those businesses that won't see that source of revenue coming into a lot of times smaller businesses as well. So I was wondering if you could speak to some of those ongoing conversations that maybe you're having or that you would like to have
with the executive branch about like resources that those small businesses might be able to take advantage of, and some other creative solutions that we might be able to enact, especially to fill some of that gap and get those food resources to where they need to go.
Brian Walker, for the record, President of the Retail Association of Nevada. Thank you very much, Senator, for the question. We have not had comprehensive questions. I did speak to Kelly at SNAP, and she was very forthcoming. We'd already had a meeting scheduled to talk about some of the other SNAP-related issues, and so I did appreciate the information, and they've been terrific to work with. And I did have a conversation with the Director of Ag, Director Gokachia, 2 days ago, just kind of walking through, and I had some questions for him in regards to how the distribution was actually going to work. But beyond that, I read it about in the ND, ma'am.
Can you speak to the economic impact to some of your membership about the, the SNAP program not being funded?
Brian Walker, Retail Association of Nevada. It's about a $1 to $1.80 economic impact. So for every dollar that the state is spending in SNAP benefits, we get $1.80 back in economic activity. And so it's a net positive in terms of moving dollars around our communities, and does in a way that we make sure that folks are most empowered to individually make the best choices about their own nutrition needs and about their own dietary needs for their individual families. And so I could speak to how effective, I know this came up and I think it helps answer your question, but SNAP remains the most fundamental, most effective program to feed those who are hungry in the country today. For every meal provided by a Food Network partner, SNAP provides 9. They are not prepared. They're getting prepared, and that's certainly not a question to them to be able to distribute this much food, but we do this on a weekly basis. 500,000 Nevadans are not our total universe of customers, and so to be able to logistically answer how to get food to people, we are very good at it. I am worried about the economic impact, however, of our more independent, smaller locations who don't have a logistics supply chain completely behind them, but are their only option for fresh foods. There's a market in North Las Vegas, Marcos. You think about buying at a gas station, but they have a separate, completely different section. They've got refrigerators, they have bacon, they have eggs, they have protein, and so it provides a revenue source for them. Those businesses are necessarily going to have a larger percentage of their sales based on SNAP. That's what they serve. That's who they're there for. And so those businesses are going to see declines in sales of 50 to 60% probably over the next week. And so that's going to have a huge impact to our ability for those guys to stay afloat during this time.
Thank you. I mean, I'm honestly shocked that what you're saying is that $90 million has $162 million economic impact in our state. That is just incredibly significant, and the rippling effects of this shutdown are just devastating. So thank you for sharing that, and I'd appreciate any updates that you have regarding any programming and any concerns that we're seeing about some of our smaller businesses.
If I might, Madam Chair, I know I wasn't asked this, but Brian Walker with the Retail Association, we are very concerned about our frontline retailers who are going to show up to work on Saturday and Sunday and Monday for the next 10 days. You talk about a distribution system for communication and information. That is who is going to be giving out the information, the vast majority to these customers, to these people who are on it. So anything that you can do to make that 30-second elevator pitch that the cashier is going to have to make to these customers as easy and short as possible. I don't know if like 211 is an issue, but we have to be able to give a line or some information or some talking points and arm our frontline retail on how to deal with this. We've heard reports in other states, thank God not Nevada, that they're expecting some violent events. We are not anticipating that, but we are concerned for those employees. So any help that you might be able to provide in streamlining the information that our employees can hand out to those affected would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much. And Senator Neal, did you have a quick question or comment? And then we'll go to Assemblymember Mosca.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So I just, and this is a combined, I guess, question for the logistics piece. Based on what was just put on the record, is there a conversation to make sure that the food distribution is coordinated around the areas that are the food deserts and also have some of the smaller convenience stores where we know we have higher food insecurity, right? I know we have some food banks, specifically in North Las Vegas, we have food banks that are churches in those areas. But I think once you really look at the trickle down effect of this political decision, if we want to eliminate chaos as much as we can around food on Saturday, how are we trying to make sure that the convenience store and maybe the church are maybe either in communication, that there is some kind of connect so that the person that goes with the SNAP card at 7-Eleven or Circle K then can know food bank X is within the 1 mile, right, of where you are, so you can go get what you need today.
Beth Martino, 3 Square. So the good news is one of the many reasons why the two food banks are well positioned to help with this effort is that we are already focused on equitable distribution of our food. So we do look at all of those types of partners that you just mentioned and try to make sure that we have equitable distribution. We're looking at geography. We both collect data to see how much need is projected in various zip codes, and then we try to match the amount of food that we send to those zip codes. So in terms of using our existing network, we are able to sort of target those areas based on what we already know about the need in those zip codes. And so essentially surging to those partners should be a relatively effective strategy. But to your point, because we are looking at at least a doubling of need, we are knocking on every additional door that we can find of people who have large parking lots that could accommodate large distributions. And so that's where those emergency distributions come into play. We have to be able to either have staff or trained volunteer support available, and there has to be traffic flow and other things. So it does become challenging when we think about someone like a Mario's West Side Market that may have people coming in. And I know there was a media story this week about how they are already seeing folks coming in having a difficult time just because of everything else that's happening in the economy. But we really can't effectively run a distribution in a location that small, because if we have 200 people show up, it creates a lot of chaos. So we really have to look for large locations to do that, which is exactly what we're doing. I'm not sure what our count is, but I think we have a couple dozen emergency distributions on tap. Again, looking at largely places that can support traffic flow and large crowds, because that's what we're expecting to happen. And I defer to the Food Bank of Northern Nevada on what their plan looks like, but I suspect it looks somewhat similar.
Shane Piccinini with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. Nicole, would you like to take this question?
I think Beth is exactly right. Where we look very similar, we're doing the same thing with our communities. You know, it is always our intent to work within our communities to meet neighbors where they are and to provide them best support that meets their needs. So yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for all that you're doing, as well as this committee. I think it's most of my questions have been answered and it has been discussed. And as someone who proudly lives in East Las Vegas and represents East Las Vegas, when I talk to my community members, they don't know it's coming, right? As someone who grew up on SNAP, Saturday is an exciting day. It's the first, it's a Saturday, which is a big deal, and it is also a holiday month. And so when folks find out this is happening, it's important that we're all getting the word out. So I'm grateful for it. My question was really, I would be remiss in not asking, because being part of the nonprofit community, we know with the federal cuts, whether it's perceived DEI or whether it's all of the backlog of federal funds going out because of the current shutdown, that at least I've heard from constituents and nonprofits that some of these partner sites have a lot less capacity or they have closed down because of the man-made issues happening right now. So I just think it's important that we also understand what's happening on the ground with that, and that we understand what to expect as well. If the food banks can please talk about that.
Beth Martino at 3 Square. You're exactly right. I think first, I would say we certainly have heard from a few of our partners as recently as the last week. One of our larger partners has closed completely for multiple weeks until they can secure additional funding. We know of other partners that are either reducing their workforce or limiting operations to try to maintain what they can. So that certainly stretches the food banks as well. Fortunately, because we have such a large network, we are able to turn to other organizations. But I guess what I would suggest is that it does point to a larger, longer term systemic issue that needs some attention, and that we are all very focused on the moment that we're in right now. But there is a systemic and structural challenge here for organizations that need support, because we are the fallback plan. And when we have not been adequately resourced, and these larger discussions about food insecurity and housing and other things are not occurring, then we end up where we are today. And to me, that points to both addressing the moment that we're in now, but also thinking long-term about what's the strategy to build sustainable programming and networks so that when there are emergency situations, people have a place to turn.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair. My question is about storage. So I know that one of the food banks that I help out at once in a while, or it's not the food bank, it's the distribution center, Hope for the City. They're getting 24 pallets and hoping to get the word out this Saturday. But how do you handle storage at a lot of these places?
Beth Martino at 3 Square. So our partners, this is part of what we've been doing over the last few weeks. We have to reach out to them to find out if they have adequate storage for additional food. And we have a wide variety of partners, as you've touched on, some whom have large locations that can store food for some period of time and some that do not. So that's part of our calculation in reaching out. We kind of targeted our 50 most high functioning partners because we knew that they already had some capacity and we wanted to test how broad that capacity could stretch. But that's certainly one of our challenges as well. And similar to Assemblywoman Mosca's question, I think points to just a need to increase the capacity of some of those organizations. It may be cold storage. It may be dry storage. It may be, we have a partner this weekend that's conducting a large distribution, and they said yes when we called, but they also said, can you provide us some funding to repair a pallet jack and a couple other pieces of equipment, because we don't think our equipment can withstand this need. So that is for 3 Square, and I'm sure for the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, another issue for us to address at this time, because money to buy food is, of course, incredibly valuable. But when it's limited to that purpose, we have to also turn to other funds, because this will stretch the capacity of our partner network.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Most of my questions have already been asked and answered, but I've got to say, I really commend the governor's office and this body today on taking this aggressive action to deal with this very unusual, and I'll say distressing, but issue today in feeding our communities across Nevada, and particularly the Guards stepping up and their work that they're going to perform. I was just curious, and I may have missed it at times, is the governor's office working with our federal officials to recover any of these funds to go so we can reimburse our contingency fund? Is there a possibility of that?
Thank you for the question. This is Debbie Reynolds. We are in constant communication with the federal delegation. Chief of Staff Cherry is going to DC next week. One of the things that we're looking at is trying to ensure that as we're moving forward to address the impacts of the federal shutdown, is that we are following all federal regulations to ensure that when the federal government does, when the shutdown does end, that we will be eligible for any available reimbursement. That's what we're focusing on. We certainly do not want to jeopardize future funding for our state.
And if I may ask one more, and it's Chair, and it's a terrible question to ask. I hope it never comes to fruition. But I've heard we've only got limited funds. Are we looking at any plans if the government shutdown continues on how we may address it if we unfortunately go through November and into December?
This is Debbie Reynolds. We are reaching out to all agencies to gather information on the impacts of the federal shutdown should it continue. Absolutely, the longer that this continues, the greater the impact will be to our state. We are looking at programs that have that will be impacted come December and the next, the beginning part of the year. So we're trying to plan ahead. Should it continue? Where do we need to pivot to next? I'm not sure if that answers your question, but we're definitely looking at it from all angles.
No, that did. And I know it's a difficult question because we're all anticipating that, as was said by one of my fellow colleagues, that sanity returns back to DC and this challenge does not continue. I just wanted to make sure that we're looking forward and hoping that we may be able to recover some of these funds. So I appreciate it, Chair, and thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the conversation. I wanted to specifically get a better understanding of the volunteer capacity in order to support this increased amount need of food distributions in our community, and to better understand what we're doing to make a call for volunteers. I'm in a number of different volunteer organizations, and I myself haven't seen too much. So is that my understanding would then be that there isn't any need for an increased amount of volunteer hours, or am I wrong in that understanding?
Beth Martino with 3 Square. We certainly have a need for additional volunteers because this has developed relatively rapidly in terms of the infusion of resources anyway. We are continuously updating our locations and distribution. So I know that I am confident in Northern Nevada, they need volunteers as well. I will also say though, and speaking to the remarkable nature of Nevada and our communities, so many people have reached out that to some extent we've had people stepping up and offering their entire company to volunteer before we even have locations secured for our distribution. So we are in a situation where we need more folks, but we also see a lot of supply of volunteers coming in. So if you, for 3 Squares purposes and for anyone who would like to, I encourage folks to sign up as a volunteer, and you will begin receiving information from us. And certainly then as we schedule additional distributions, you'll receive information so that you can be alerted to volunteer opportunities as they develop.
For the Nicole Lamboli Food Bank of Northern Nevada, we have already put out a call saying we are encouraging people, if they are interested in volunteering, to go to our webpage and sign up so they are getting the alerts. I think within less than 24 hours of our first call, we were already at a wait list level. We have consistent volunteers. We are also working with our local governments. They are directing volunteers, including their community emergency response teams, the CERT teams. We have also been in contact with the American Red Cross to activate their volunteer corps. But yes, we will always welcome volunteers.
Can I have a follow-up question if that's okay, Chair?
Please.
Thank you. And it's kind of independent of that question, but how are we engaging with the Spanish-speaking community to make sure that there's information about the food distributions? I've seen a lot in the Spanish media that has to do with the SNAP benefits, but I have not seen as much information, if any information, really available outside of like one event that the Consulate of Mexico did here in Southern Nevada. So how are we engaging to make sure that they're familiar with where to go, where to get these resources? I've actually had several school leaders reach out to me over the course of the day looking for resources, and how are we communicating that to them, because we know that schools are often that first point of contact.
Beth Martino at 3 Square. Thanks for the question. We do typically try to translate all of our flyers, advertising distributions in Spanish. And I know I'm realizing now as I think about the flyer that we are distributing for Saturday that I haven't seen the Spanish version. So I will check to make sure we've done that. We have reached out to Spanish-speaking media to try to advertise that way. I know I'm speaking with Telemundo, I think tomorrow morning, and we've reached out to other publications to try to publicize that way as well. But I appreciate the question, and I will make sure to raise it with our team that we may be moving so quickly that this might not have been right at the top of mind. So I really appreciate you raising it.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will go to Assembly Member Hadagi.
Thank you. And I just have one final question, and this is for the Governor's Finance Office. I mean, we've heard over and over and over from everyone here that funding SNAP is the most efficient way to get people food and the most efficient use of the money. And so my question is, why is the work program in front of us to send money to this food insecurity program instead of funding SNAP?
Robert Thompson for the record, Administrator for the Division of Social Services. First, I would like to thank everybody for the conversations today. I have worked with this division for 29 years, and aside from the COVID event, I don't think that we have had this atmosphere in our agency before. It's been a difficult couple of weeks. I have had numerous conversations with food and nutrition services under the USDA. And Food and Nutrition Services has sent us in writing guidance that it is not permissible for us to tap into the data from the SNAP program to fund with our state dollars because our state does not have a general assistance program at a state level. States that have a general assistance program that process general assistance at the same time that they process a food stamp application called a joint application do have the ability to transfer state dollars over and mimic their state program or mimic the SNAP program. But because we do not have that, there was not a methodology that would allow us to follow federal regulations to mimic that program. The mechanisms are there. The mechanisms are there that we could put dollars on those EBT cards, but they have advised me that it would put our programs at risk in the future. They would not quantify for me what that risk meant. I could not come to you and tell you that there was a financial penalty or if I would just receive a slap on the wrist. I don't know. So putting that out there, we do not have permission to use that data that we have to transfer dollars over to those EBT cards, even though we have a mechanism to do it.
May I have a follow-up? I know that other states are doing it. I have colleagues in other states who I've spoken with that are doing this. We know that the state of Louisiana is doing it. We know that the state of Florida is doing it, and they also don't have state programs. They are standing up state programs. And so if the concern is we are afraid of what the penalty might be, I think our concern should be the people who are going to go hungry in our state. We can deal with a slap in the hand, we can deal with the penalty, but we are going to have people who are going hungry. 10 to 12 weeks to stand this program up means that there's not going to be enough assistance for people in Nevada. And so our concern shouldn't be what the federal government's going to do to us to penalize us for standing up our own program or putting money into SNAP, because the priority should be putting food on the table of families. Families are not going to be able to buy groceries. Kids are going to go to sleep hungry. Seniors are not going to put food on their table, and that should be the first priority.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll go to Majority Leader Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I can't agree with my colleagues' comments more. I think, again, this is a good short-term ability for us to address food insecurity, but it is not like the solution, and it's not the thing that's going to solve for the economic impact and decline that we're going to see in this state. It's not going to solve for all of these families where this is just not going to be a solution for them. And it's just not as efficient. And I, for the life of me, don't understand why we are just in a position of only considering this and we're not trying to think a little bit more about how it is we fund SNAP benefits. I know that there are those of us who are trying to figure that out, and we'll keep working on that. I have some technical questions I want to make sure that we have on the record here for this particular set of work programs. So I guess, can the governor's finance office answer for us that whether you have concerns that there are requests for allocations from our contingency account approved, that only that 2.9 million will remain in the IFC contingency account? And does that cause you concern for the next foreseeable future with just having that little amount in the contingency account?
Tiffany Greenmeyer for the record. As we all know, we will be having a special session later in mid-November. We do plan on replenishing the IFC contingency account.
Okay, and that I think brings me to my second and follow-up question, was just to make sure that we are all very clear that the governor intends to include that replenishment of the IFC contingency account in the proclamation for a special session.
This is Debbie Reynolds for the record. I can confirm that is the case, Senator.
Thank you. And then I think you sort of touched on this. I want to make sure we're very clear because I think we talked about it. If the shutdown goes into the next month, what would that look like? But I guess, have you given any consideration to what happens if the resources from this particular program are depleted? The federal government is still shut down. We may still be in the month of November if that happens. And so, like, what plans does the governor's office have to address food insecurity in the event that we utilize the resources that we're allocating today and are still in a position where SNAP benefits are not funded?
Thank you for the question, Senator. This is Debbie Reynolds. In addition to the language that would be in the declaration regarding replenishing the contingency account, the governor also intends to put language in the declaration to address funding for the SNAP program.
That's an interesting response. I mean, I think obviously we should be addressing funding for the SNAP program. We did just hear from Mr. Thompson that that appears to be something that, at least at this point in time, has not been something that we're trying to do. And so I guess it is interesting to hear, I think, the previous response to, I believe it was Assemblymember O'Neill's question about what happens if we go into the next month and there's still a shutdown, and that you're talking to agencies to try to figure out what might be able to happen. And then a response that there will be a call for SNAP funding in the proclamation for a special session. In the testimony we also just heard was that there's not a way to do that.
Senator, if I might clarify, what we know today is that we cannot fund the SNAP program as it exists in a federally funded program. We are looking at all options to be able to continue funding food benefits for SNAP participants to the extent we can do so within the law.
I guess I have maybe one comment, if I may, Madam Chair. What I will say, and I guess I will take the providence of speaking for the folks on this committee, and based on a lot of our discussions and the discussion that we've had here today, is that we remain very committed to figuring out a solution to getting SNAP benefits to Nevadans, because there just simply isn't another choice. For hungry families, there is not another choice. And so we have the obligation to do that. I am a bit troubled by differing pieces of testimony offered here today as it pertains to solutions and roadblocks that I think we can be agile about addressing and figuring out a path forward. So I guess I am sort of left with the hope that at some point there is some continuity in what the plan is moving forward from the governor's office, knowing that the legislature is doing everything in our power to figure out a solution for Nevadans. Because while this is a commendable, again, short-term solution, it is not the answer for those families in the way that we need it to be at this point in time. And so that's all I have at this point, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll go to Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm sorry I'm not actually in the room, because I think this has been a tremendous discussion, good discussion regarding all this. And I know I'm a fiscal person, and we got really into the weeds on the social issues. And I appreciate that conversation, because I think it's important for people to know that there is real society ills. There are real social issues. We do have food insecurity across our state and our nation, even addressing the logistics of how do we get this food to folks. I mean, I think these are all valid discussions. But back to the fiscal component of this. I've heard a number of comments from the Three Squares and folks that, and she said it a couple times, that this would be solved if when the budget passes and we fund SNAP again. And to that end, we've talked about months down the road, but frankly, we could do this in a day if our second senator would just sign on and get this done, and we wouldn't be having to have these discussions. So I just want, it is a federal issue. I think our state has done a tremendous job trying to solve this issue down in the future, but really it would only take one moment to reach out to our second senator. The one has done a great job and signed on. Our second senator, it would be great if she signed on, because then we wouldn't have to be having these discussions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And you are always welcome to fly down here. You don't have to be up there, as we do every other year, and we'll be doing shortly. And I don't think this is a blame game, but I believe the majority leader has comment.
I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. I know that it is late in the evening, but I just am going to take exception to that as a reason why we are in this situation. To be very clear, there are a number of reasons why we are in this situation. The fact that there is a shutdown at the federal level, I guess I won't get into that blame game, Madam Chair, since I feel as though that will open up a can of worms, but let's be very clear about where we are as it pertains to SNAP benefits. There have been other government shutdowns where SNAP benefits have still remained available to SNAP recipients. There has consistently been guidance that contingency funds within SNAP can be utilized in order to provide these benefits despite a government shutdown. There is currently over $5 billion sitting in a contingency fund within SNAP here in the United States. And but for recent guidance that has somehow inexplicably maintained that those funds cannot be used in the event of a government shutdown to extend SNAP benefits, is the reason why every single state in the United States of America is facing this problem. It is not a Republican problem, and it is not a Democratic state problem. It is a federal government problem where they have purposefully utilized and weaponized guidance in order to deprive families of food. So I take extreme exception with the idea that this is one senator's fault when historically these benefits have been provided. And but for that change in guidance, we would not be sitting in this committee today, and every state in the nation and every legislative chamber and every governor wouldn't be trying to figure out how it is that we are going to deal with the insurmountable idea that in the United States of America, hundreds of thousands, millions of families are going to go hungry. So I apologize for being a little bit emotional about this, but people are going to be hungry in the United States of America because we're trying to weaponize to prove a point. And it is not because of a senator who is trying to find solutions. It is because we purposefully changed that. And this has never been a situation before. And I think that it is completely unacceptable that the people who are going to pay a price are children and families who are hungry. And that is the reason why we are in this situation.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I share the frustration and anger of my colleagues. Maybe the federal government needs a civics lesson that their power derives from the United States. All 50 of these states, without us, they don't have power. I find it, and by the way, I'm not angry at anybody in this room. Everyone in this room is trying to do the best with what we have. I believe the governor's office is trying to do the best. The legislators are. We've been put in this spot by the federal administration. We didn't ask for this, but I do know one thing. We were elected to solve problems, and we've got to solve this problem. I'm just a little confounded by this idea, and Administrator Thompson, don't take offense to this, but the idea that the federal government would say, you can't use the data to provide the benefits unless you have a general assistance program in the state. Like, that makes no sense to me. I don't doubt that they said it to you, but I think regardless of that, we have to do it. This program that we're standing up here is great, but it's not SNAP. SNAP's $90 million a month. SNAP's 9-to-1 in benefits. Logistically, like, we need to fund SNAP. Other states are doing it. They're not all doing it in the same way, but even looking back 2 weeks ago, no state was doing it. Now 10, 11, 12, 13 states are finding a way to do it, and we have to find a way to do it. So the questions I have, maybe they're for you, Administrator Thompson, maybe they're for the governor's office. Administrator, you had said that the mechanisms are there to do it. It's a matter of permission. So my specific question is, my understanding is we use Fidelity Information Services as our vendor for SNAP. If we right now, we're not going to do this today, but if we had $90 million right now in front of this committee and we said, we want that money loaded on SNAP cards through our vendor, are there any impediments procedurally to doing that aside from the federal government permission and guidance?
Thank you for the question. Robert Thompson for the record. Procedurally, I do not see an issue with it being done. It is not something that could be done overnight. It would take approximately a week to get that through from what we've understood with the vendor. Keeping in mind that we would be issuing cash benefits, it would not be possible for us to duplicate the SNAP program. The mechanism we would use would be to pass cash on to those customers that would still be used at that EBT card machine, would still be used at the Walmart, the Smiths, where you swipe the card. Because the SNAP programming is the mechanism that blocks people from being able to use the benefit to only purchase food.
So I don't want to open up too much of a can of worms because maybe we can talk about some of this offline, but like the SNAP infrastructure exists, right? And what the federal government has told you, I think, is that we can't access that information. Like, who gets the benefits, right? I mean, we know it, but like, we can't use those rails. So I'm just trying to understand, like, why couldn't we just take money and put it on the existing SNAP cards? Are you saying we could do that, but it's not going to be subject to the SNAP rules? Or is there some impediment for us just putting the money on the existing cards so that people could potentially use them?
Robert Thompson for the record. The way those cards work are much like our debit cards that have checking and savings. So when a person goes forward to use that debit card, they would push the button that said food assistance, so they would push the button that says cash assistance. If we were to set the mechanism up, assuming we have the money, assuming that we're not concerned with the risk, right? If we set the mechanism up to load it to the food card, it would be commingling it with the SNAP benefit, and there would be difficulty that we could not do. Again, for legality reasons. I guess the mechanism of just mixing those funds could be there.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. If I could just ask a couple more. I think I'm understanding what you're saying, but we could, if we had the cash, we could get cash benefits turned around. It's just going to be a matter of how much time it takes. And you think that would take a week? Is it possible, you think, to do it faster?
Robert Thompson for the record. We have spoken, and in all transparency, my team has been up since 2 o'clock this morning trying to be as creative as possible, knowing that we were to come in front of you. We have explored every option and spoken to the vendor several times. When we first started having these conversations a few weeks ago, their first comments came back that it was going to take 3 to 6 months to do anything, and $1 to $3 million. That was the first answer that we received. So I went back to them. We had conversations again. We went back and said, there are accounts already here that are set up. If I wanted to use this account and I wanted to transfer the data to mimic a program, what would that take? The cost was minimal. The mechanism would be there, but it would have to be the cash benefit. And I think the time frame, I'm sorry, Assemblymember Yeager, the time frame was what you asked. They did tell me that it would take about a week to set that up in place and then transmit the data.
Thank you, Administrator. And could I ask, first of all, I want to commend you and your team. I have no doubt that you've been working around the clock. And so I don't want anyone in this room to take our frustration to be directed at you. It's not directed at you. It's directed at the federal administration, the inability to have a government that actually works for the states. But this guidance that you were given from AG, was this, who gave you that guidance? Is it, and who gave you the guidance, and have you consulted with Attorney General Ford or somebody else on the state level to get their guidance or legal opinion on what we can do in this situation?
Robert Thompson for the record. The guidance that I received was from the administrator of the Western region of Food Nutrition Services under the USDA. I did not consult with anyone outside his office. They are who we have always taken our guidance from. But no, I did not go outside that conversation. I did follow up 3 separate times and asked the question in 3 different ways and did receive the answers in writing.
Great, thank you. And Chair, just a couple more if I could. I know the hour's getting late, but I would recommend potentially doing that. And I'll just say, despite whatever guidance is being given, I don't think this is a situation where we can take no for an answer. We have to find a way to fund. I don't want to say SNAP benefits because it's not SNAP benefits, but it's cash assistance for people who are receiving SNAP benefits. We've heard about the disaster this is going to be, not just for families, but for the economy as a whole. So I think we have to find a way to do this. It's been referenced that there may be a special session soon, and I think that is a potential avenue. But my question, and I don't think this is for you, Mr. Thompson, it might be for the governor's finance office. Today, what we're doing is basically we found $30 million. We swept the IFC contingency account to be able to fund this very worthwhile food program. But is anybody aware of any other pot of money that we as a legislature can't do much because we're not in session, but obviously the way IFC functions is people come and put work programs in front of us, and it's the governor's finance office. So my question for the governor's finance office, are you aware of any other pot of money out there that you would be able to potentially do some kind of an IFC emergency work program, so that in addition to this very valuable program, we would have the ability to provide cash benefits to SNAP recipients as soon as possible and before an anticipated special session?
Tiffany Greenmeyer for the record. We don't have a lot of accounts that have emergency funding that's $90 million. We do have the rainy day account, But let me explain the rainy day account and how it works. Yes, the governor, along with the legislature, can declare a fiscal emergency to activate the rainy day funds, to transfer to the general fund to stabilize the operations of state government. With the approval of the Interim Finance Committee, when the legislature is not in session per NRS 353.288. In order for the executive branch to use the rainy day funds for a specific purpose, it would require a full legislative body to appropriate the general funds to the budget account. The purpose of the rainy day fund is to stabilize the operations of state government when there is a fiscal emergency or an unexpected shortfall in the state revenues. Currently, Nevada's ending fund balance is above 13% in fiscal year 26, and we closed the budget fiscal year 2025 with an ending fund balance of approximately 25%, or $1.5 billion of operating appropriations. And Nevada has not met the criteria for AB 591, Section 85, when the ending fund balance falls below 5% or below $175 million.
And Ms. Greenmeyer, if I could interrupt, I appreciate that. I understand that. So one question I do have is, we're talking potentially a long-term problem here if this goes on months and months and months. Has there been any discussion that you're aware of on the governor's side of the equation about what, I know we can't use the money immediately, but whether he is in a position to declare a fiscal emergency to be able to tap into rainy day funds during a contemplated special session? Is that a conversation that has happened in terms of the long-term viability of cash benefits to replace SNAP the longer that this shutdown goes on?
This is Debbie Reynolds for the record. We have not had conversations regarding tapping into the rainy day fund. We have, however, had conversations about looking at funds that are available in the ending fund balance that could be used as a one-time appropriation.
Okay, thank you for that. And Chair, last question, I promise. I just wanted to make sure I got in. I understand the mechanisms of the fiscal emergency, the restrictions on what the legislature can do. And that's why I had asked, is there anything that we can do between now and when we might go into a special session? Is there any pot of money that could be presented to the IFC in the form of a work program that could go to cash benefits if we could figure out a way to do this, which it sounds like we can figure out a way to do it? Is there any pot of money that you're aware of that's out there that's not going to require the entire legislature to meet and appropriate?
Tiffany Greenmeyer for the record. No, there's no pot of money that we can do a work program to fund the SNAP program.
I think that's it for me. I don't know.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Chair.
All right, last comment from Assembly Member O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the second shot. The iPad is losing power, so I apologize. I had to move things around. During the conversation today, I often heard, and this is really addressed towards the Northern Nevada Food Bank, that they've reached out to the various partners and prepped them up for the large demand that is anticipated starting in just a few days. In Carson City, we have a nonprofit called FISH, Friends in Service Helping. They distribute food, and they're responsible for areas in Lyon County, Carson City, and Douglas County. When I texted to ask them about what directions they've received from the Northern Nevada Bank for the increase, they responded back to me saying that basically they were told to expect decreased amounts of food, and that's been the only discussion they've had. I'd like to hear from them is there a misunderstanding here, or where am I confused that that's the direction you're giving people to your partners to just expect more people but less food?
I'd be happy to take that. Nicole Lamboli, CEO of Food Bank of Northern Nevada. Fish is one of our partners, and we have sent out surveys to all partners asking them what is their capacity to accept more food, as well as to extend their hours and days to include evenings and weekends to assist our neighbors. I will circle back with our team. There was a time earlier in the year when we received word that some of the USDA funds had been canceled and that TFAP commodity orders would be shrinking, that we did have those conversations with partners to prepare them for what was happening. But in the last week, I know my team has actually, since August, we have been holding partner conversations with our partner agencies that they are asked to log on. We recently had our partner agency conference where we talked about all of these issues. I will find out and get back to you, Assemblyman, with our conversation with Fish, but we would certainly be interested in hearing from Fish as to their capacity to assist during this time.
I appreciate that. Jim Peckham, the director, is awaiting your call as we speak. So thank you very much. I want to get this cleared up because that's my district, and we do have people that are in need of the food assistance in those various counties. So thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me the time.
Certainly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will go to Vice Chair Monroe Moreno for the last comment, and then we will be taking a vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing such a robust discussion of all of the aspects, both fiscal, economic, and social, about this issue today. As the vice chair of this committee, I think what I've heard here today is that we're going to have a lot of work to do in the special session. There are a number of issues that were discussed here that I hope to see in the proclamation, because allowing families to go without food is just not an option in the state of Nevada. That's not why any of us ran for office, or at least I hope it's not why we ran for office. We've discussed solutions. Those solutions can't happen in an IFC, but those solutions can happen in a special session. So when we get that proclamation, it is my hope that all of the solutions that we discussed here will be included on that proclamation so that we can make sure that families are fed now. And we're also identifying and providing solutions for future issues that the state might find itself in. None of us thought we'd be in a shutdown, a federal shutdown, where we had a federal government who seems to not care one way or another about the citizens that it's supposed to protect, doesn't care if they go hungry. Well, I do. And I believe the members of this committee do, or at least that is my hope and prayer. So I hope and I pray that when we see the proclamation, the solutions that were discussed today will be included in that so that we can continue caring for the families, not just serving them, but caring for the families that we were all elected to serve. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll accept a motion to approve F1 and F2. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Assemblymember Backus. Second by Senator Wynn. Any discussion on the motion? All right, with that, all those in favor say aye. 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 All those,
Aye.
aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here today and for everything that you are doing. Thank you, members, for the good comments, questions, and discussion. And so with that, we will go to our last agenda item, which is public comment. Is there anyone here in Carson City who would like to make public comment? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I just wanted to express our sincere gratitude to the committee, to the Governor's Finance Office, to the Governor's Office, and also to the Division of Welfare and the Department of Agriculture for the mountain that they have moved on our behalf in order to be able to make this effort possible.
Thank you very much, and thank you for what you are doing. I will come down here to Las Vegas. Please go ahead.
Beth Martino with 3 Square. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, I think on the eve of Nevada Day, express how proud I am to be a Nevadan and to be spending this weekend serving alongside Nevadans, many of whom will come to help at food distributions that 3 Square will operate, and they themselves are food insecure and in need and in a situation that they never expected to be in. So I appreciate very much the work of this body, of all of our state partners at all levels who have made this happen. I'm reminded of us being a battle-born state. This has been a hard discussion. It certainly is difficult circumstances, and I really appreciate all the thoughtful comments and suggestions that were made here to make our work at the food bank better so that we can serve people. We've been saying a lot over the last couple of weeks that it takes a community to feed a community, and you all are definitely the representatives of that. So thank you so much for what you've done, and we're looking forward to getting to work to make sure people have food on their tables.
Thank you from all of us for the heavy lift. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Stephen Cohn, for the record. The hour is late, as has been communicated already, so I'll just put on the record my commitment to 3 Square and DSS to assist in any way I can.
Thank you very much. With that, I believe that we will go to the phone lines. AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. To provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, please press *6 to unmute.
Hi there, my name is James Fleming. Hi there, my name is James Fleming, Fleming. I'm a community health worker and I volunteer at Wolf Center Community Services in Fallon, Nevada. We do food distribution. We are a partner of Northern Nevada Food Bank, and we also serve hot meals twice a week, as do other members of the interfaith community here in Churchill County. And I would like to second the comment made by representative from Catholic Charities. I would like to ask for some of this money distribution to go to cafeterias that serve hot meals to our indigent and needy populations, and also to the people from the food banks who are there. Please send some bullion. A lot of the beans and potatoes and rice you send is fantastic. It would really help if you guys sent some chicken stock or beef stock or vegetable stock to help make those things into stew. It's one of the most important things that we rarely get from you guys. Not to complain, you guys are fantastic, but please.
Thank you very much. Additional callers, AVH?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the hardworking committee. Thank you so much for taking the day to be there today and making sure that Nevadans do not go hungry. This is Dora Martinez with my humble guide dog, and I'm just really concerned. While I understand and appreciate all you guys what you guys do in food pantries, as you know, some of us cannot legally drive, and here in the Northern Nevada, not all the buses serves the food pantries. And I have some friends who are wheelchair users, and some of them have foster care kids that they do care for, and they are developmentally disabled, so they cannot be home on their own. And we're just very concerned on how they're going to participate in getting their food and also carrying the boxes of food. How are they going to get their bus home? So there's those things that haven't been mentioned here, but I know now that you guys are hearing that maybe there'll be some solutions. And I want to thank, and this is the only person that recognized their voice, Steve Yeager and Nicole Canastaro, for mentioning, people work and many hours standing in those food pantry lines, and especially when the fallback hours on Sunday, it gets dark sooner and cold, all these things. And so I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And please have the people who are disabled in mind, because not all of us can legally drive or walk with our Chevrolets to go to the food pantry. Thank you, and happy Nevada Day. Happy Halloween.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us today. Additional callers, AVH?
Thank you, Chair. We have no additional callers at this time.
Okay, with that, I will say happy Nevada Day, happy Halloween. Thank you all for being here with us. Happy birthday to one of our members, Assembly Member Hadagi. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, everybody. Happy Nevada Day.
Same to you.